All right, and we're back. My normal location. I'm back home for a little while. I say a little while, not very long. We just got back from CoinAlts over there in California. We were in San Francisco the last couple days. Multiple dinners, multiple different events. Put on an allocators breakfast. Spoke on stage there on the same day stage as a few other important people, which was actually really cool. So we saw Jack McDonald speak up there on stablecoins. We had a lot of other prominent people in the space talking about just changing dynamics when it comes to the regulations in digital assets, what the Clarity Act is going to look like, taxes in crypto. So for those that don't know, CoinAlts is more of a institutional event, highly curated. A lot of the hedge fund attorneys and administrators and all the stuff that you don't even really think about as far as service providers when you think of a hedge fund. This is really kind of their go-to event each year. If you are dealing with digital assets or crypto in your fund, they kind of have everybody else there that's doing that. So Global Stake, 3IQ, many others there at the event, speaking on stage and discussing again their products and solutions that they're bringing to market and all the cool stuff that's happening. But we're back, like I said, home for a couple of days here, and then we run to Swell Monday next week. So Monday, fly out, go up there to New York. We'll be there with BNY Mellon, Citi, Goldman, Bank of America, you name it, BlackRock. They'll all be there at Swell on the 4th and 5th in New York this year. Excited for that one. And then from there, we head down to Futurist. So we'll see you guys there in Miami. And we're back to Dallas for another event that we're co-hosting at the end of next week. If you're in the Mastermind, you know what that is. And you can get access to tickets there. So hopefully, if you are in New York, Miami, or Dallas, we'll see you guys at some point here in the next week as the world is not really world travel, but the travel schedule is very hectic here at the end of the year before we get into, everybody kind of slows down when it comes to Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's. It's hard to get a lot of things done. So really running at it hard here through the end of October and really kind of through mid-November until things slow down toward the end of the year. Hopefully for you guys, I talk about other stuff every once in a while, but if you have New Year's resolutions, I'd go ahead and kick those into gear now, right? Like I know everybody starts that Jan 1 and their new year, new me, mantra. But if you can start to build habits here in Q4 that'll translate to results in 2026, so you can step into the person that you want to be and have the success that you want to attain, I would encourage you to start doing those things now and cultivating those habits now instead of waiting till the first of the year. And if you can do it during the holiday season, then you're going to be able to do it anytime. There's never a good time to start stuff. There's always things going on. There's always birthdays. There's always whatever else. So if you're trying to lose the weight, if you're trying to change careers, if you're trying to make some more money, if you're trying to improve your relationships, I think if you can start to cultivate those habits and work on those things now while things are hectic, and do the little daily tasks that are required in order to make those changes, then you'll be able to cultivate those things during difficult times, and that way when it eases up, it actually becomes easier to maintain things. So shout out to everybody that is running toward their goals and everything that they are trying to attain. And I think 2026 is going to be a really good year for a lot of people. Oh, my wife, she's got the booty.
Bad news. I got a super chat that we missed that I forgot to print. Can you please read it?
Yeah, I sure can. Here you are. All right, we'll go ahead and jump into this. My wife's always looking out for people. You emailed this to me.
Okay.
So yeah, we'll jump into the super chats here. Appreciate you guys taking time out of your Thursday. We're a day late, but we're here, so making it happen. This person says, Peter Schiff said he's creating his own token backed by gold. You buy gold from him, he stores it for you, and you can transact in it through an app. Have you ever spoken to him? We need his project on the XRPL. And this is from Michael. So thank you, Michael, for the super chat. So actually, there was a recent video where Brad Garlinghouse is talking with a few gentlemen, including Tom Lee over there in Dubai, and they brought up this specific topic, tokenized gold and the benefits that it would provide. It's good. I think that it provides a lot more utility to gold. I think you could lend your tokens out, put it in a DeFi protocol, earn yield on it, do other stuff that you normally can't do with gold, which is great. And it's a hedge against inflation. It's a store of value. That's the whole value proposition. Gold is real money. The only piece that, and this is what was brought up in the debate, is you're dependent on that counterparty if you want to go exchange that digital representation for the physical asset. And if they have, rehypothecated it or done anything with it that doesn't allow you to do that, you have that counterparty risk. Whereas things that are native on chain and you're collecting the bearer asset of the token in your wallet, there's no counterparty risk with that. You know that you have that accessible at any time in case you need it. So, I like Peter. He's actually what turned me on to crypto, funny enough. I was watching a debate between him and a Bitcoin guy back in 2020. And that's when I stumbled onto crypto. So, I don't know. You've already got gold warrants over there on XDC. You got Comtech Gold over there. I do think that they will tokenize gold and other commodities on chain. And they will back currencies. I don't think that they will back, let me restate that. I think they will back treasuries, and then the treasuries will back stable coins, but they won't be redeemable. So people that do want to redeem the underlying asset, Peter's product's probably pretty good. But obviously, he's still butthurt about, the appreciation that Bitcoin's had, while gold it's done well, but not anywhere near as good as Bitcoin. And if tokenized gold comes on chain, does that compete with Bitcoin? Again, that was the question that was asked that I'm referring to with Tom Lee in the debate there in Dubai. I think it does, and I think that Bitcoin will be revalued significantly lower over the long term. I don't know that it'll be the same as gold, but I think it'll be pretty close if that's the whole use case that it ends up being. Did you have something else?
Journey to Six Pack was the username.
Oh.
No, I was going to remind you. Tell them about the dinners.
Oh, okay. Well, do we have the link?
I will post it.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, we do. It's on the Digital Family Office page.
Okay. My wonderful wife always making sure I stay on top of stuff. I have wonderful women around me, like my assistant and our COO and my wife, and they keep me organized. I am how I am, which I think y'all want me that way. I'm always trying to do more, be more, have more, create things. But it becomes a little spastic at times, and they make sure that I'm on top of it. So on that, the dinners, there's been a lot of people that I've done one-on-one consults with for years. And, when I first started doing it, I did the first 60, 70 consults completely for free. And then I thought, okay, well, there's enough demand here. Maybe I'll charge for them. Sure enough, people paid. Obviously, we have, a large business at this point, kind of built on that whole deal. And then we've been able to scale multiple products and different divisions of the business on top of that. And over time, we've just raised the cost of consults with me. Just my time becomes stretched thin. And I love meeting with people. It's one of my favorite things. But it does take up a bunch of time, and people tend to ask the same questions, which makes a lot of sense. They're like, how do I know that this is real? How do I know you're not BS? What are the fees? What all can you guys provide? A lot of things, right? And I like to get to know people personally. I want to know, your kids, your future, your goals, retirement, if you want to travel, what philanthropic focus you have. I have like 5 or 6 questions I ask everybody at the beginning, and it gives me some discernment on how to guide them through the conversation and what products or solutions they're going to be a best fit for them and their family. But we've decided, even at $5,000 for 30 minutes, people were still booking a lot of my time, which blows my mind, by the way, like crazy to me. But I always want to make sure that I'm providing people at least that much value. And sometimes I don't feel like I am, and I feel like I feel shisty about that. I don't like that. Especially people, if you've got $1 million, 2 million, $5 million in crypto, yeah, I can provide you a lot of value. But there are people that we're paying that have, not not as much. And I don't know that I'm able to translate $5,000 worth of value for those people. So what we've done is we've created these dinners that we're going to run. So it'll be here in Dallas. You'll come in, you get a hotel, you get dinner with everybody. You'll get to meet all of the other people at the dinner and get all their contact information also. And that's been really helpful for me. Like that's been the biggest hacks that I've ever had was getting around the right people in the right rooms and paying to be there. And sometimes it's a little more than you're comfortable with, but one relationship, just one introduction or one relationship that you make could change your life completely and your income and everything else. And so we're still gonna make it $5,000, but you get 2 hours. We're gonna do a full dinner with everybody. It's gonna be exclusively 20 people at the dinners, and you can bring a +1 for another $1,000. So if it's you and your wife or you and your buddy, your crypto buddy, whatever, we pay for the hotel rooms and we'll pay for the dinner for you guys. And again, go through everything. There'll be a full, I don't want to say webinar, but like PowerPoint presentation, answer a lot of the questions, and then we'll take Q&A the whole second hour there at the dinner. And it'll be a very nice dinner. It's not like it's, McDonald's or anything. Like it's a nice curated dinner for you guys. So
and you get a bar credit or breakfast.
Oh, and you get bar credit and breakfast. And I think they comp the valet too.
Yeah,
so try to make it, I want to make it more valuable for, especially if people are going to be paying $5,000. Like I want you to get your money's worth, and I want you to get additional benefit outside of just 30 minutes of my time. Like again, sometimes I can provide $5,000 worth of value, a lot more than $5,000 worth of value in 30 minutes. But I want people to always feel like, wow, I would have paid more for that. And I think this is the best way to be able to accomplish it. So if that's something you're interested in, whether you have, millions of dollars in crypto or not quite that much, if you do want to be in the room with the people that do, and you want to be able to ask full transparent questions, get to meet me, shake my hand, look me in the eye, meet other people that are part of our team, make sure you can touch and feel it, make sure it's real. We love that. We want to be able to do that with people. And so that's why we put this together. And again, if you want to go to digitalfamilyoffice.io, we have that in place. So this person says frozen fish sticks. Now it's going to be a little bit better than fish sticks, man. So now that we have that out of the way, we'll go ahead and jump into the questions over here. Thank you guys again for taking time out of your Thursday to hang out with me over here on YouTube, X, and on TikTok. Hopefully X is working. It never seems to work. Facebook too. Shout out to Facebook. We got Junior B. He says, legend. Any chance that big announcements will come out of Ripple Swell that will really help push the ETFs and XRP to where it needs to be, where they need the price? It's possible. I mean, so I've attended the last 2 swells. We didn't get to go to London in 22, but we went to Dubai in 23, went to Miami last year in 24, and we'll be at New York this year in 2025. The last 2 years have really been about setting the foundation and putting things in place so that you can scale all the cool, sexy stuff that we all want. I can tell you, having the people that are there this year leaning in and speaking, I think, I mean, you guys know my bet, right? Like I've made no qualms about that. I have a public bet that's XRP $750 by the end of the year, which I know a lot of people are like, how in the world does that happen? There are events that have to play out. We've been over that a lot of times here, but with the institutions leaning in and the Clarity Act, looking like that's about to go, the ETFs right here on the precipice of rolling. You've got Evernorth, the DAT for XRP, changing the ticker today. There just seems like everything is ready to rock here. So will there be some announcements that come out of Swell? It's quite possible. I don't, if you were going to make some large announcements, you would do it in New York. This also kind of coincides with the the proper party. They had the proper party for XRP and the XRP Army there in New York. Ripple put that on after we had the declaration that XRP is not a security in the lawsuit, and that was back in September of 23 that they put that on. So maybe it was November of 23. Anyway, a couple years later, here we are again back with Ripple in New York. I've seen a lot of press and signage there in New York, promoting Ripple, a lot of PR going on. So it wouldn't surprise me. I don't know of anything specific that's going to come out of Swell this year, but they've always alluded to something big coming for Swell. And with all of the acquisitions and everything that's transpired here in 2025, I think that it would be, a really timely location and event for them to announce something pretty large. We got AJ, my man. He says, "Hey Jake, got my LLC. Awesome, dude. The initial email still explains, yeah, we need to change that on to, because the minimum is now 50,000 XRP, like you mentioned. Everyone out there, if you can, get your LLC formed before price appreciation. Mine was completed in less than a week." Thank you, AJ. I appreciate that, man. And I'm with you, so don't do it if you don't have at least $50,000 to $80,000 in crypto. Like, it's not worth spending $2,000 or $3,000 or $4,000 or whatever it's going to cost you to set up an LLC to manage your digital assets. But once you get, $50,000 to $80,000 in crypto and you believe it's going to go much higher, and again, that's the second piece there is you believe it's going to go much higher, then it's definitely worth, getting the creditor protection, the anonymity, setting things up in a way where you can manage those assets. You want to own nothing and control everything. This is the way that the wealthy move. I'm sure that you've heard that. An LLC does that for you in Wyoming. It gets charging order protection there in Wyoming. The crypto regulation in Wyoming is far above and beyond anything else in the US. You get anonymity because there's attorney-client privilege in Wyoming. And, as you dole out that income or create income or have capital gains or do whatever you're going to do with your crypto over the long term, you can mitigate those taxes. Now, it's not an immediate write-off. It's a pass-through entity. And so, you're spending money out of the company, using depreciation, buying other assets, and spending things on business, travel, and other stuff allows you to be able to offset that. So when it flows through, it's less amount of money that you're taxed on versus what you would have if you just did it in your personal name. So we have a lot of people with the misconception that, you just don't pay any taxes if it's inside of an LLC. That's absolutely not the case. But if you have CPAs and other people that you're working with, they can absolutely help you mitigate the taxes because you have the full breadth of the tax code to be able to offset that income, which you definitely do not have in your personal name. And again, same thing with the bank accounts. The longer you have this open before price appreciation, one, you can get a DUNS number set up. You can get credit at the corporate level. If you have good personal credit, then that becomes a lot easier to get good credit at the corporate level. And you don't want personal guarantees on stuff. So, again, if you are building, business credit, 3, 6, 9, 12 months, you can get things set up before, price appreciation. I don't think you have that much time anymore, just personally, but seasoning in a bank account, also big deal. Ideally, you want to have a bank account open for 3, 6, 9 months in the name of the business, doing some transactions and, moving money around and getting comfortable with that institution before you move, a large lump sum of 7 or 8 figures if you are going to take some serious profit into that account to keep them from flagging it or freezing it or holding it back. And when you are setting up the account, a lot of times banks will ask you how much money you plan to move through the account. Pick the larger balances. If you believe that you are in the right place at the right time to generate large amounts of money, tell them that you're going to do that. Let them know, because if you pick the low amounts and then you start transacting larger volumes through there, they're going to flag it and they're going to freeze it and they're going to wonder what the hell's going on. So hopefully you've, created some of these banking relationships. Hopefully you've been proactive and set up your trust or your LLC, especially if you believe, XRP, like I do, that XRP is going to significantly higher prices. You want to set things up now versus later. And again, you don't have to work with us to do that, but if you do want to work with us to do it, I'll tell you, you can go to tokenized.io. And all you have to do is use the code 50OFF50 OFFDAG-LLC. That's 50 OFFDAG-LLC. Get you everything end to end for your, holding company that manages alternative investments with a specific sleeve for crypto. And there's a reason we structure it that way. And we do a single member LLC for most people. So there's no tax implications when we get in there. We give you the step-by-step process. We do everything end to end for you for $2,000. Make sure you don't mess it up. Don't make any mistakes. But not everybody has that. And I know people, want to look for cheaper solutions. Not telling you don't do legal Zoom. I would highly recommend that you get an attorney if you don't use us, to make sure that the operating agreement is structured the right way. But I know how people are. Like, we're all crypto rich and cash poor. And if you're looking to save some money, I could understand why you would want to do that. We try to make it as economical as we can for people. We really don't make a ton on the LLC. Just after our attorney's fees and everything else that we've got: registered agent, EIN, articles of incorporation, certificate of good standing, the banking memorandum so that you can get the bank account set up, and then the corporate fail service to maintain your creditor protection. There's not a whole lot of meat left on the bone there, but we want to make sure that people are prepared and being proactive. So that's why we, are half of what an attorney would charge you most of the time. We got Todd, my man. He says, did you see the Newsmax video about XRP being used to pay off national debt? Sip up or social conditioning seems like a convenient timing. It sure does. I would say, that's what I've been talking about for a while. You guys heard me, I guess it was a live last week, where I was talking about assets and liabilities. And if your liabilities are way up here, your assets need to come up. And a great way to do that is if you had crypto on your balance sheet that appreciated. So, yeah, I think it could be a little bit of both. But they have to tell you what's going to happen before it happens, right? That's the the conspiracy theory. Speaking of the conspiracy theory, before I jump to the next one, I got my tinfoil hat back here for you guys. Since it's Halloween, I can put my tinfoil hat on here. My lion's wearing it. But you know how I am. Every once in a while we get off the deep end a little bit, and we'll probably get into that a little bit tonight. If you'll hang out till the end, we'll have a little tinfoil hat talk. We got WF. They say, hey, Jake, on the recent town hall, you talked about escrowing an additional 2% of XRP to cover the AUM fees and perpetuity. Explain to me like I'm 5. Seems like you only cover costs the first year. It would just cover costs the first year, unless price appreciates. And then if you're over 10 million, then that would move to 40 basis points, which would be 1/5 of the cost of the 2%. And so if you believe price is going to move like I am, that 2% escrow there that also increased in value would cover about 5 years worth of your expenses with us instead of just 1, right? So it's not going to cover it in perpetuity for sure. And it is finite, but it's a great way. The reason you would do it that way versus dollars is we'll do some numbers here. Let's say you had the minimum with us. You got 50,000 XRP over there today. That's going to give you, we'll call it 125 grand, 130 grand worth of value, somewhere in there. 2% on that is going to be, call it 5 grand a year. I'm not doing exact math here, but we're close. If XRP goes to $100, you now have $5 million. Well, that's great. So now that's going to drop to 50 basis points on 5 million. So that's going to come to $25,000 a year, which is a lot more than the 5 grand cash you might have put in the account. But if you did it in XRP and bought an additional 2% XRP, now it's 1/4 of the cost, and you didn't have to add any more money over there as the asset appreciates. So if you're like most people we work with, many people are just plowing as much as they can into XRP because they know what it's going to be. And, they're keeping low cash reserves. And so in my mind, like might as well get the extra XRP and make sure all your fees are covered. In the worst case, if it does appreciate, when it appreciates, like I think it's going to, you're covering 5 years worth of fees instead of, maybe a month's worth of fees if it's in fiat. So hopefully that helps like reconcile that in your mind. I know it's not a simple conversation, but that's what we were getting at when we talked about that in the town hall. And if you guys want to join the mastermind, we would love to have you in there. Just go to beyondbroke.com. We have a town hall every single Saturday morning. We'll be on there at 9 a.m. Central Standard Time this week. And we'll go over a lot of different things. We cover macro, we cover financial education, business resources, private deals, all kinds of stuff that we go over there in the mastermind. You get access to that I don't share here publicly. And that's one of those things, unless he'd asked me, I wouldn't have even talked about it. But we're going to add additional value there. Again, I always want to make sure people feel like they would pay more for things. I don't ever want people to walk away from a situation and be like, man, that costs too much. Or like, I don't know if I got the value from that. I don't like that. I don't like when I feel that way. And I don't want people to feel that way about our businesses. We're scaling quickly and we are having a hard time getting back to everybody because of the amount of demand that we are seeing. We've hired aggressively. Those people are getting trained up to be able to meet that demand. So, I do appreciate any patience or grace that people give us. If they are onboarding here recently, just know that we are working diligently to backfill those gaps. And again, I don't like that. I want very high level of service and I don't want anything missed. And that's the standard that we're trying to set. So feedback is good though. So if you reach out and you do have some questions or issues, we do want visibility on that. So because that's the only way we get better. All right, we'll go over here to Chris D. Mr. D, he says, borrowing against your digital assets, are you just paying interest on the main loan, or are you, as the borrower, paying back the loan and interest? Are they just holding your assets in case you don't pay the loan back? All of the above. So they are collateralized loans. There's no credit check. So you get funded in 45 minutes. You put up the assets, you get money. Like there's no underwriting because it's 45% LTV. So you're putting up 2 times the amount of assets to the dollar amount that they're lending you. And they do simple interest only with a balloon payment at the end. So, let's say you had $1 million in XRP, you borrow $450,000. I wouldn't recommend doing all 45%. Some people do. Ideally 20 or 30% LTV is a responsible way to do this. If you're going to do it, I'm not advocating for it or, telling people to go do these things. If you're part of the mastermind or you are a Digital Wealth Partners client, we have ways you can do this. But again, not advocating for it. Just we want to provide options for people. So again, back to the LTV, which is loan to value for people. I always say acronyms and forget to explain them. So loan to value, if you're borrowing 20%, put up $1 million, be $200,000. You would just owe the interest each month on that. So let's call it 12% a year because that's about what it is. On $200,000, that'd be $24,000 a year. So it'd be about $2,000 a month that you would owe in interest payments, and then you'd have a balloon payment at the end, or you can just roll it. And if you have your assets have appreciated by the time a year comes around, then you can pull assets out in whatever excess you need, and you could liquidate the others to be able to cover the note, or you could just roll it and continue to pay the interest on it. They'll allow you to do any of those. We have fantastic partners on that. Even when we had the huge liquidation event on 1010, no problems. We lost 0 XRP. If you were in a smart contract, you got liquidated. Done deal. But because of the way we structured this with our counterparties, nobody lost their XRP. We did have capital calls, and people were able to shore up the margin and meet those. And again, shout out to our advisors and our team for following up with everybody and making sure everybody got that across the line, working diligently on a Friday night and Saturday all day long to make sure that those were taken care of. But happy to report we lost 0 XRP during that event, which is our #1 rule at Digital Wealth Partners. This person says, let's go mudding. What's up, my man? He says, Jake, the closer we get, it seems so far. How much lower do the rate cuts have to go down before the reverse carry trade unwinds? It's not going to come from us lowering rates. Again, like neither one of these central banks want to be the cause of this. They are going to punt it as far as they can, and there's going to be a scapegoat that they point to and say, oh, well, that's why we had to do this, and that's why this happened. But never let a crisis go to waste. And so we rolled this other thing out to save the day. So, we're slowly lowering interest rates, and Japan is holding their interest rates. I'm going to continue to beat on the drum of oil. We need oil to rise aggressively. That will cause inflation in Japan. Their only recourse at that point will also be to raise rates aggressively, and that will cause the reverse carry trade to unwind. Until that happens, they can tiptoe around this deal, and they know that. And the other reason that I'm so confident that it's oil is that that's a trigger they can pull whenever they're ready. It's not hard to cause oil to jump in price just on news that the Strait of Hormuz was going to get shut down, or some large trade route was going to get blocked, or there's a conflict in the Middle East. And, we've seen oil plummet. We've seen oil skyrocket on global macroeconomic events, geopolitical events. So if you wanted to have a trigger that you could pull to orchestrate something and make it timed to when you needed it to be done, that would be the ideal way to do it. And this isn't me. Like, I didn't come up with this. Jim Rickards is extremely intelligent. He's the one that put this whole sequence together. I just understood it enough to be able to see how it would affect XRP and crypto markets and all of that. So if Jim thinks that's the way it's going to happen, and that's what he's consulted the US government on for decades, probably right. So that's where my bet is. I'm still watching for oil. And it doesn't even have to be in US dollars. It just needs to be the yen loses value against the oil or WTI crude. Honest Aim, good to see you. He says, thanks for all that you do for the little guys. Say hi to the tea lady. I see ads for Fruition's new movie, Money Disrupted, with you, Edward Griffin, and others. Very excited. Thoughts? Yeah, so I actually filmed earlier this year. I was in 2 different documentaries that'll be rolled out here at the end of the year in January on multiple streaming channels. Money Disrupted, one other one, where I come in and talk about digital assets and cryptocurrency and stablecoins and the effect of, effectively the change of money over time. And, Robert Kiyosaki, I believe, is in both of these documentaries as well. And was really, just blessed and excited to be a part of them and participate. Chris and Maya are awesome over there at Fruition Films. Shout out to them for, thinking to include me. I think that they're going to have some voiceovers from the first one. They shot a lot of content with me both times, a couple different, multiple hours of content both times that I'm sure will probably, most of it will get clipped because they can't put all of that in a movie. But really excited to be a part of that, and really excited for the world to better understand money itself and digital assets and how they play a role in this new economy that we're about to step into here. We got Jonathan. It's not Jonathan. Jeez, it's late. I need more tea. Jordan, what's going on, brother? He says, Waxahachie Mastermind member here. Awesome, dude. From David Schwartz patent in 88 till now, it amazes me how so many are still non-believers. Can't thank you enough for all that you do. After price appreciation, might get drunk and tattoo your name on my ass. Oh my gosh. Don't do that, my man. It's not, please don't. I don't want my name anywhere near that area of your body. But I'm happy to see you at Mastermind events, shake your hand, and we can grab a drink together. We'll see how it plays out. I had a guy stop me at the airport today. It's starting to be a little bit more prevalent that people see me out in public, and you're like, you're the XRP guy. I'm like, yeah, I guess so. If that's what you want to call me. So that's cool. This is like the level of famous that I want to stay. I don't know if that'll happen or not, but like, the people that I think are cool and I want to know me, know who I am, and the people that just everybody else has no idea. I'd prefer it to stay that way. But yeah, looking forward to seeing you at the Mastermind event. And again, we do more in real life events for the Mastermind than pretty much, well, any other cryptocurrency community I know of. And so we just did one in San Francisco last week. We had 300 people attend that one. It was great to see everybody, shake hands and meet people. And we'll continue to do those again, probably more and more frequently, especially post price appreciation. We got Nick, my man. He says, Mr. Ripple Universe, your experienced thoughts when ETFs going to happen, shutdown issues. Thanks for Beyond Broke. Got some good people sharing info, decent, and mine's ordered biometric. Awesome, dude. Glad to have you in the Mastermind and excited that you are getting your stuff on a cold wallet. If you don't have your stuff on a cold wallet, please don't leave it on exchanges. We like Decent. We're an affiliate, full transparency, make like $5 if you buy one using our link. I think we have them, in the down bar over here on YouTube. And we, if you go to jakeclaver.com, I think they're there also. But you really like any cold wallet. There's a lot of good ones out there. You got Enclave, you got LEPAL, you've got Decent, you've got Tangem, Trezor. There's a bunch of stuff out there. We like Decent because it has the largest breadth of assets. It's got a biometric. The UI works great. I've used a lot of different ones over the years. That's what I prefer. So that's why we actually don't have any other affiliates. I think they're the only affiliate that we actually take it back. Uphold's an affiliate too. But them and Uphold are it as far as like people we actually work with and trust. Adam, he says, hey, Jake, what are some good books or websites to look at in regards to understanding how to generate returns off of investments? Ooh, I don't know if you want a philosophical deal or if you want like actuals. So depends on how involved you want to be with the management of your capital. There's a lot of great college courses, master's level and PhD level courses on trading. There's a lot of good people out there. Game of Trades is great. It's a YouTube channel. Books, a lot of the books that I read on wealth are a bit more philosophical or psychological than actual fundamentals on trading. I like macroeconomics. I mean, if you look at some of the best traders of all times, people that hold, high levels of success for extended period of time tend to be more concerned with macro than day-to-day trading in certain strategies. Watch movies like The Big Short. We have there's a full list of books there in the Mastermind that I've put over there with different areas of expertise. And I think, returns on investment is actually one of those. So if you want all of them, I can't think of them all right here offhand. Good question, though. If you want that full list that I give there in the group, you can join the Mastermind. Just use the code Beyond Broke, all capitalized, the number 1, and then MO like Mary Oscar. So that's Beyond Broke, all capitalized, the number 1, and then MO like Mary Oscar. Also capitalized, get you the first month for $2, and then you can go look at all the books in the channel there in the Discord on multiple topics aside from just that on generating returns in your investments. Ryan, he says, I have a bet for some money with some friends. I say it will be over $6 on December 1st. Do you think I'll win that bet? Thanks, legend. Love listening to you. I do. I think you are going to do really well on that bet. Casserole, interesting name. She says, how does an LLC hold/own the crypto? Can you use an already seasoned LLC to own my XRP of my cold wallet? Yeah, you absolutely could. So we use it as the initial capital contribution to the business. We list it on the capital contributions page when you're filling out your operating agreement. We get that notarized. You just list, the wallet address, which asset it is, how much of the asset it is, how many tokens, and then the total dollar amount on the day that you transfer it. And when you do that, you get it notarized, it serves as a timestamp. A lot of people want you to buy another ledger or another cold wallet or send it off of an exchange or do some crazy stuff. I want to move it as little as possible. I want it to just stay on the cold wallet I've already got. So that's why we structure it that way. And there could be tax implications for moving it into another LLC if you're not the sole member of that. It also could depend, but if it's you and your spouse, if it's qualified joint venture, there's 15 or 16 states in the U.S. where qualified joint ventures allow for tax-free transfer of assets into corporations. You might have a family limited partnership, and then each one of your family members that are also on the cap table would need to transfer in whatever portion of assets are going to be added to the corporation in order to maintain their equity in that deal. If you're going to use an already existing LLC, if it's in Wyoming and you've structured it the right way and you have anonymity, sure. But you're going to have to add new provisions to your operating agreement to be able to manage digital assets inside of that and use those as treasury assets if you weren't doing that before. There's a lot of additional considerations when you're moving assets from your personal name into an already existing LLC. You'd also want to look at the liability that you currently have for that company. So if it's managing a piece of real estate or you're doing any type of service with it, if there is liability on that and you're not in a state that has really strong creditor protection, you might be opening yourself up to lawsuits where people could take your digital assets. Like if you're in Florida, so, again, I would consult with an attorney if you were going to do that and not set up a new one. I think it's always best to separate assets or segregate assets is where I was headed with that. So just want to remove liability and kind of silo things and separate stuff out and have profits roll up to a management corporation. Up to you, though. If you've got private equity, if you've got other things that aren't really super risky and you've already got maybe a Nevada LLC or a South Dakota LLC or maybe a Delaware LLC, those also have the anonymity and some creditor protection depending on which state I just stated. Then yeah, I probably could use it. If it's not one of those states and you are doing business for something else out of it, you probably want to set something up new for your crypto. So I know that was probably a lot longer answer than you wanted, but that's my 2 cents. And again, would love to work with you on that. If you guys want to work with us, you can use us to set up an LLC. It's just use the code 50OFF50OFFDAGLLC. Get you everything end to end to be able to structure the right way in Wyoming. If you go to digitalfamilyoffice.io. Carnivore, he says, hey, Jake, years after price appreciation, will you write a book about NDAs and all the things you can't talk about today? I recommend you name the book Coming Out of the TP. Thanks for all that you do. Stay cool. I don't know that book title is going to, translate as well as I want it to. But I like the humor. It's good. Yeah, I'll probably do memoirs or something. It'll probably be, 10 or 15 years down the road when I do that stuff, just to protect certain individuals and things, maybe closer to the end of my life. But yeah, I definitely want to put something together at some point in the further future that discusses a lot of that. And, I think people would enjoy it. Obviously, you're not the only person that's asked about it, so we'll have to put it together for you guys. Thank you for the super chat, Southern Rock Singer. Appreciate you on that. I never do this. I always forget. But Liners has said, smash the like button. Please do that for me. If you would, like, subscribe. Oh, Max, text me. Smash the like button, like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Share this with somebody else if you are getting value from it. It does help the channel grow, which is crazy. Again, we're like almost at 150,000 people over here on YouTube. We're at like 100,000 across all other platforms, which is just mind blowing to me. Thank you None of that's possible without you guys, caring what I think for whatever reason. So yeah, I'm blessed and grateful to have so many good people that want to watch and learn. Um, just yeah, thank you. I don't have I can't thank y'all enough, really. Um, Johnny says, "Hey Jake, I know you've probably been asked this before, but what do you think of buying Ondo compared to XLM, HBAR, and XTC?" Um, it depends on what you're doing, Johnny. So if you're buying for ROI, probably not. If you're buying for investing in ecosystems to benefit long-term blockchain solutions, sure, absolutely. If you're buying for staking rewards, yeah, I think you get something, but it's not super meaningful. Um, I don't know a whole lot of utility and benefit that you can do to borrow against it or earn returns with it today, and I don't know that it's going to have significant ROI beyond what it's already seen. I do think we'll get more treasuries tokenized, and I do think they'll be on that chain. It's the leader for that. You got BITL, you got other funds and stuff being tokenized on Ondo. I just, I think that there's better opportunities for ROI and some of the other things I mentioned versus that today. In the future, that might change. Matt, my man, he says, Jake, my man, what's up, dude? You're like the Grant Cardone of crypto, except way cooler. I like the media has been mentioning XRP a lot more lately than usual. Sometimes something good is coming. I can feel it. Appreciate you as always, bro. Absolutely, dude. Appreciate that. I have a lot of respect for Grant. We try to model a lot of our like media stuff, not necessarily after him, but the cadence and the volume that he does, I think has translated really well for his business. I don't necessarily like a lot of his business practices. I do have a lot of respect for him though. So I think people have a hard time with that, separating personal and business. I might not like you, but depending on what you've accomplished and the success that you have, I might still have respect for you in whatever regard you've accomplished that in, whether I like you or not. I think a lot of people have a hard time with that for Trump. Like he has been very successful in business, but he says some things and does some things that piss people off. You kind of either love him or hate him. There's not really a whole lot of in-betweeners on Trump. Yeah. So anyway, I try to be, not overly polarizing, but it's been pretty good. The people that resonate with me, and we kick it and we're good, and they want to work with us. And then, if people don't like me for whatever reason, that's okay too. I'm not here to, help every single person. I would love to, but it tends to be a certain type of person that doesn't jive with me. And I don't think we would get along anyway. So it works out. And I think Grant's kind of the same way. You either have respect for Grant or you think he's a skis ball and don't like him. Either way, I think he's doing fine. Lawson says, hey, Jake, does the Bank of Japan choosing to keep interest rates stable push the reverse carry trade out? If so, how far? Thanks. Again, I'm beating a dead horse here, but them moving rates is not going to unwind the reverse carry trade. We already saw them start to do that last year in August when they were raising rates aggressively, and they said, whoa, we will not do this anymore. We're going to stabilize markets and we won't move rates again as long as there's instability in markets. And they've held true to that. They continue to kick the can. They've continued to hold rates here, even though their rates have continued to climb. It's going to be oil. Like, I'm just going to keep banging that drum. When you see whatever catalyst is going to happen and it pushes oil higher, that will be the scapegoat. That will be the reason that they're able to point to that say, well, we had to because of this. It's not because we wanted to. Nobody wants to take the blame or fall on the sword for this. They need to have a scapegoat or a red herring to point to. But it's also going to be orchestrated. Like I said, if you needed a trigger event, like that's one of the easiest ones to orchestrate with geopolitical events. And so when the time comes and when they need it to happen, and I'll say this too, it could be that the XRP ETFs go live before the reverse carry trade rolls. And we start to see price appreciation on XRP that's pretty significant before the reverse carry trade unwinds. And I've been talking about this for a while. I think we see like a $50 or $100 XRP pit stop. Okay. And then maybe there's a small pullback before we see the moonshot to 4 digits that I've been talking about for a long time. So take that as you will. I wish, I mean, I do have a crystal ball, but it doesn't show me the future. I can look at my bluey pumpkin and try to figure it out with that. You know, I did get a magic 8-ball from another person. I don't have it with me. I should have brought it home, but I don't know exactly the way this stuff's going to play out. I can just tell you all the dominoes that are stood up and what order I think they're going to go in. It could fall a little bit different, but at the end of the day, the long-term benefit here is we know that XRP goes to significantly higher prices when everything does unwind. We've got GTQ, Mauricio. He says, hey, Jake, Wyoming LLC, check. Tangent Wallet, check. Converted all the altcoins to XRP, check. In on Ripple International, check. What's next for me? I have a little under 50,000 XRP. See, this is the cool thing. Like people that are proactive, they get these hits of adrenaline, and like the ball gets moving and the snowball's rolling downhill, and they don't want to stop the momentum. They want to know, like, okay, I've done this, I've done this, I've done this. Like I'm moving, I'm making progress. What is the next step? How can I continue to make progress with the amount that I have? For this gentleman here, Mauricio, I would say, you know, if you got a little under 50,000 XRP, you got a couple options. So our minimum over there at Digital Wealth Partners, like you may know, is 50,000 XRP. Oh yeah, don't tell people how much you have, Mauricio. Or change your name on here would be my other recommendation. There was one guy that said I changed my name because Jake told me to. That's what he changed his name to. Please change your name so people don't know how much you have. But I mean, you could go a couple different ways. If you wanted to get it into institutional custody, which it sounds like that's where you're headed, you know, you could save up a little bit and buy a little bit more XRP and meet that minimum. We do have fees over there though. So just be aware of that. I don't make any bones about that. Like we are going to have a really cool yield product, which I think y'all are going to be excited about come to market in the near future, along with the other stuff that we have already rolling there. We just paid about 1.5%, almost 2% to actually 1.5% on the income fund and 2% on the growth fund to our LPs over there in the last quarter. So the only regulated way to generate returns on your XRP is at Digital Wealth Partners here in the US. There's some other, you know, I don't want to say sketchy because that's not the right word. I mean, they're like the smart contracts that where you're staking your XRP, because it's not real staking, you're staking your XRP. They're not legal here in the US. I personally know all the parties that are doing it. They know that it's not legal here in the US. And they are excited that we've done it legally because we've kind of given them a path forward. But the way that they're doing it is not legal. So they've geofenced the US. If you're using a VPN and you're participating, that's on you, you know, but they're trying to keep people that are US or domestic out of their returns. We are actively looking for people that want to generate returns on XRP legally here in the US. So if you're accredited and you do have more than 50,000 XRP, we would love to work with you at Digital Wealth Partners. So back to the question at hand for Mauricio. He says, if you had a little under 50, again, you could, you know, pony up a little bit more money and get to the 50 and work with Digital Wealth Partners. The other thing that you could do to be proactive is set up a living trust. So if you've worked with us to set up your LLC, we can also set up a living trust in your state for $500. Super cheap, super economical. There's nobody else. I guarantee you there's nobody else out there doing it for this price and doing it the right way. So if you do want to set up a living trust, and it'll have a pour-in will. So what that means is the trust doesn't own the LLC. Okay, this is a living trust. It could be revocable or irrevocable. You do you. With a pour-in will, when you pass away, God forbid something happens to you, the equity that you own in the LLC gets rolled into the trust. So while you're alive, they're separate. You get the creditor protection and all the benefits of an LLC. Upon your passing, it skips probate because it's going to get rolled into the trust and then flow to your heirs with no probate. So you get the probate protection. So, with this strategy where you have a living trust with the pour-in will and you have the LLC, you're going to get like 80% of the same benefit that you would from an asset protection trust. Now, an asset protection trust, after it's seasoned in for 2 years, is going to be much more ironclad. It's going to be very difficult for anybody to ever take your assets or do anything. The LLC, again, corporate veil, as long as it's maintained and it's in the right jurisdiction, it's got charging order protection in Wyoming, makes it difficult for anybody to do anything other than put a lien against it. But that would be the two things that I would say. You set up the living will, make sure that you have that structured for you and your family. And I know you have other assets. You probably got a house, you probably got cars, family heirlooms, gold and silver. All of that stuff fits perfect into a living will. Or sorry, not a living will. Rewind that. Into a living trust. Living will doesn't get you a whole lot. A pour-in will take your assets that you have and anything else that wasn't a part of the trust at the time, it all gets rolled in. So that's why we put that together. So if either one of those things, working with Digital Wealth Partners or setting up the trust is something you're interested in, if it's, working with Digital Wealth Partners, you just go to digitalwealthpartners.net, fill out the contact us form. We'd love to work with you there. And then if it is on the other side, you want the living trust set up, and we can do those even without the LLC for crypto if you want to for $500. Because again, doesn't have anything to do with crypto. It's just, to protect your stuff from probate. If God forbid something happens to you, it's $500 over there at digitalfamilyoffice.io. Let's scroll on down. I'm not going to get through the super chats tonight. I can tell you that. I am an hour in and we are still way up in the chat here. So I'm going to get through as many as I can. But if I don't get to you, email us, or you can just get in the mastermind. Again, beyondbroke.com, use the code beyondbroke, all capitalized, the number 1, and then MO like Mary Oscar. You pay $2 and, you can DM me directly. And a couple, I got to go through disclaimers and a couple stuff here, just because I'm thinking of it. One, I will never message you. It's not me. It's a scam. I wish I had time to sit down and message everybody and talk to you guys all day. I am running like a chicken with my head cut off, trying to build products and solutions and build our team. We have 42 employees at this point, multiple different vendors and partnerships we're working on. There's all kinds of stuff moving and shaking all day long. So I wish I had the time to DM you, but if you get a DM from what looks like me, it's not me. I will never DM you. If you DM me, I will answer it. I try to get back to people within 24 hours. Sometimes it takes longer than that because again, just have a lot going on. But if you are in the mastermind, I will get back to you 5 to 7 days most of the time. I just pick a couple hours out and knock out all of them at the same time. But if I miss your super chat, please put it over there in the mastermind, and I would love to answer it for you if I don't get to it tonight. We got Blazer 08 semicolon nope colon 28. They say, hey Jake, can you tell my son Bennett that XRP is going to make him a very, very happy boy one day? Thanks. Yeah, Bennett, Pops is going to set you up for success, my man. It's really cool. I wouldn't say everybody we work with is parents, but probably 70% of the people we work with are parents. And they really do want to structure this for their kids. They want to set things up. They want generational wealth. They want to give them opportunities and position them to do better than they were, or the options that they had when they were younger. I have conversations with my son all the time about this type of stuff. Money was never discussed in my household. It was always kind of a bad thing because there was never enough of it. And I watched it tear my parents apart. They got divorced when I was 18. And I think most divorces today are probably because of bills and money. My parents told me that money didn't grow on trees and you had to work really hard and go get a education and this, that, and the other. It's not true. None of those things are true. They print money every single day. It literally grows on trees. It comes into existence every day. There's an abundance of money. There are trillions and trillions of dollars sloshing around in the economy, way more than enough for everybody to have a bunch of money. Okay. So money is abundant. And XRP will aggregate and move all of that value, all of it. So to be holding that right now it's a godsend. It's a gift. Like I do not know how to impart upon you or impress upon you how significant it is to be here at this time and hold this asset before it's taken and adopted, used in the capacity that we know it's going to be. So shout out to Dad Bennett. He's going to set you up. And hopefully for other people out there, you take some of what I just said and pass that on to your kids. I know that's hard to do when things are tight, when you can't pay bills or when you got to sacrifice and do without. But the more value you provide in society, the harder you are to replace, the better you're compensated. And everybody has a gift. Everyone has a gift. So all you got to do is figure out what that is for you and lean into it. And I guarantee you, if you think, and pray about it, it'll come to you what you're supposed to do with it and how it can benefit you and the next generation and everybody else to come. And some of it is just, busting your ass at your W-2 and buying XRP or seeing opportunities for your family where they can stand on your shoulders later on and accomplish more. Right. So anyway, get off my soapbox on that and we'll go on to the next one here. We got Lawson. He says, any news on when Ripple will get the banking license? The word on the street is in November, but we will see. I'm not sure. We got, thank you for the super chat. This person said they're an attack on brokenness. I like it. We got D Tucker, my man. He says, given XRP's potential role in cross-border settlement and liquidity management, do you think the IMF might eventually include it in the special drawing rights or SDR basket? It would have. So this is a great question. Many people have pondered this. I think that the IMF will use it in the role of the exchange rate peg, which they wrote a full paper on that, a white paper on the exchange rate peg back in 2014, right before Ripples were rebranded to XRP. So if you want to go check that out, I think that's the capacity in which the IMF will relate to XRP. But if they did want to include it in the special drawing right, it would have to be adopted as a currency in a certain country. So Liechtenstein, and I'm trying to think what the other one is, that's also a tiny little country there in Europe, have discussed that, potentially adopting XRP as their native currency. And only then would it be able to be used in the basket of the special drawing right. It would also have to start to become, we have 6 currencies that are in the SDR. It's a basket of currencies based on GDP. The GDP of that tiny little nation would have to become massive and have to be in the top 7 GDPs in the world in order to be included in the SDR. So there's a bunch of things that would have to happen. It's not without possibility that could take place, but I do think that it's much more likely that, again, the IMF, since you pointed out that body, they're going to relate to it as the exchange rate peg, and global markets will eventually be priced in drops of XRP, is my thesis. We got Tom, my man. He says, hey, Jake, onboarding question. If I have 30,000 XRP and 30,000 in a crypto 401k and roll that over, will the 401k remain in my name or will it turn under the LLC? It'll remain in your name. So any qualified accounts like that, individual retirement accounts, 401ks, will always be in your personal name. It would not be under the LLC unless you wanted to restructure it as an LLC which you can't do with a 401k. An IRA, you can do an IRA, LLC, or trust. But yeah, 401k, if it's holding the XRP, we would love to work with you. You've got over 50,000 between the two accounts, and those would remain separate inside that infrastructure. And I look forward to working with you, my man. And Off the Grid Hero says huge acres of land after XRP runs and land prices crash. I don't know that land crash here. We have interest rates coming down. I do think that real estate, prime real estate, probably falls. Commercial real estate is propped up in a bubble. I think there's going to be a price reset for all asset classes. So maybe land's included in that. That's a good point, you know. Yeah, if you look at the wealthiest people in the world, that's what they acquire. Large swaths of dirt. It's another finite resource that they're not making more of, unless it's Hawaii and there's volcanoes and lava flows, and then you might get some more land. But for the most part, unless you're in Dubai and they're dredging it up from the bottom of the sea, there's a couple of circumstances where they're making more land, but not very many. One of our awesome clients that we have has done really well in raw land, like really, really well in raw land. And one of the best investment strategies that I've ever heard is long-term. It is not a get rich quick scheme, but I'll give it to you. It is find a large area that you think population is going to grow. Take the main street in that city, go out 20 or 30 miles and buy a bunch of land and sit on it for a decade. Seems really simple. Most people don't have the discipline to do it, or don't want to wait that long. But to your point, you know, if there is a huge regression to the mean and drop in prices of real estate and raw land, I think people will do really well to go buy a bunch of raw land. And you want the ag exemption, you know, not paying a whole bunch of taxes, and you get some other benefits. Cameron, he says, if we have 30,000 XRP, we can borrow against our XRP with your partners to buy more XRP and reach the 50,000 minimum XRP to work with you. We can't advise you. So I need to do my other disclaimer here because I didn't say it earlier. None of my opinions are the opinions of Digital Ascension Group or Digital Wealth Partners. These are all my own opinions. So anything stated here is also not financial advice, tax or legal advice. Always work with professionals, you know, your CPA, your accountant, your attorney, or your financial advisor before making any tax, legal, or financial decisions. Everything stated here that I'm telling you is for entertainment and educational purposes only. So, Cameron, unfortunately, I don't know that we allow that because it's not in our fiduciary duty to lever people's XRP up just so that they can meet our minimums. That would not be an advisable action, and it would be a poor reflection on us as a fiduciary. And we are governed by FINRA and the SEC, and if they show up and see that we're doing that type of stuff, probably not going to go that great. Even if it made people a bunch of money, they're going to be like, look, man, like this is not, you shouldn't be telling people to do this. So highly unlikely that our team would go for that. Not out of the realm of asking for it. I don't run the day-to-day over there at Digital Wealth Partners. If you want to go to the website and you want to, you know, ask either through the support at Digital Family or digitalwealthpartners.net or the info at digitalwealthpartners.net emails and see what they'll say. You know, maybe it's different than what I'm saying, but I don't think they're going to go for that. And here before too long, it's not going to matter. Your XRP is going to appreciate, and you're going to be far above, you know, the minimums that we have anyway, my man. We got Wayne. He says, Captain Jake. It's like Captain Jack Sparrow. When will mass adoption take place? ETFs are the beginning, in my opinion, but there are 100% running. When there are we running 100% full potential, tokenized RWAs, stock market settlement, etc. 2030. So I think people have like this disparity in their mind between where we're at and where we're going. there are a numerous amount of things that need to take place in order for real adoption and tokenization of real world assets to happen. Financial products, sure. Cool. I think that we'll have a tokenized stock market next year in 2026. FX markets, commodities, things that are already extremely liquid, I think will get tokenized faster. Things that are illiquid, which actually derive the most benefit from this technology, are going to take longer because they already have additional frictions that are going to have to be surmounted in order to be able to move them on chain. Titles at your county clerk's office that are in drawers that haven't moved in 20 years, they've got to get all that digitized. They're going to have to subsidize counties and people all over the US in order to get that done. I don't think you're going to see tokenized real estate at scale until pretty close to 2030. I think maybe a couple years before that, 2028 is when I think we're going to see a big push toward that. Digital titles, I think, will be a thing. That's when NFTs will come back into vogue, and you'll have, your Google Wallet or your Apple Wallet with your digital titles for all the stuff that you own. But yeah, I think it's going to at least another 5 years before we see full tokenization. And I don't even think we'll get full tokenization. I think we'll be at like 80% of everything tokenized by 2030. We got Thomas. He says, Jake, Beyond Broke Mastermind member here. What's up, dude? Glad to have you in the community. Wanted to say thank you to your team for giving a blue collar man hope for the future. For he and his mom, looking forward to meeting you all on the other side of price appreciation. We're looking forward to meeting you, man. That's what we're here to do. I'm just a normal guy. Like, I don't view myself as anything super special. I have high aspirations, but I know where I came from. I sold industrial sales for a decade. Like, I worked with all the guys like you. I'm from Texas. If you want to call me a good old boy, like, I'm cool with that. I've had to work hard my whole life, and it's not been easy. What I figured out was leverage. So any leverage way I explain that for people is like, you do it one time and it works in perpetuity. So I do this live, right? You guys are watching me live tonight, but there's probably another 40,000 people that'll watch this over the next couple days. I didn't have to be on here the whole time. I shot one video, right? So anything that you can do in your life that builds leverage, there's 4 types of leverage. You have content, you have capital, you have code, and you have community, or people that will advocate for you or work with you to accomplish something. Code is software, and capital, people most of the time understand that's money that you put to work. You set it and forget it, and it does work for you. You don't have to be there managing it. So anything you can do one time that's usable in perpetuity is leverage. And so, if you're implementing that at your job, you're going to become much more valuable to the company you're working with, and you can command more money. If you can manage other people and delegate tasks and train other people, you become much more valuable, because now you have 5, 6, 10, 30, 40, 100 people that you are managing and moving mountains instead of just you hammering things out by yourself. So that's my 2 cents on that. But we love to have you there in the mastermind, and really excited for you and mom to be able to break out of whatever you've been doing and start doing what you want to do on the other side of price appreciation. We got Brandon, my man. He says, Mr. Legend. People with the legend. Please give some examples of what those 1,700 NDAs might be about, why they got to be so secret. Thank you for your content. Brandon, some of it's starting to kind of leak through here. So you actually just had Brad and JP Morgan, Jamie Dimon, talk about settlement infrastructure inside of a lot of these banks and institutions. And they're saying stablecoins are going to be really relevant for internal settlement, not for external use by users or retail. So Amazon, McDonald's, large global enterprises that need settlement between multiple locations or counterparties inside their own company, I think will derive huge benefits. And that's what Ripple's been building out for the last 12 years alongside all the banking rails, right? Interoperability, distributed ledger technology, that it allows for interoperability between all of these siloed ecosystems through one mainnet, one asset. Now, in order to do that, you've got to build private permissioned ecosystems or derivatives of the XRPL for people to trial things and run their own stablecoin inside their own infrastructure in order to be able to settle and see the benefits of adopting this stuff. But eventually they get to a point where their stuff internally is super efficient or much more efficient than it was, and they want their external stuff to be as efficient. And that's where we're at now. I mean, a lot of these counterparties that Ripple's been working with for 10 years, they're ready to rock. They're like, yeah, this is awesome. Works great on the inside of this stuff. Let's roll it out to external settlement also. So that's what I think a lot of those 1,700 NDAs are about. I'm sure that they're probably also on other specific applications. I'll tell you, I went to go do some research when PolySign was a thing on AtomicNet. And I went to the patent office. So same thing, a gentleman talked about David Schwartz patent in 1988. I went to the US patents stuff and I started searching terms to see what would come up. And I found one of the 20 patents that PolySign held for AtomicNet. And in that patent, they had disregarded it or abandoned it. Well, what's the benefit of that? They're not able to monetize it. Well, same thing as Elon Musk. When you make something open source where everybody else can adopt it and use it, they do, right? And now you're the infrastructure play. So if you were able to find the same patent as me, I don't have the number in front of me, I could tell you guys, but USAA, I was blown away by how many times I referenced this patent inside of all of their patents for blockchain tech. Bank of America, JP Morgan, Citi, Goldman, all the large banks and a ton of other enterprises had referenced this atomic settlement patent inside their technology. So, there's a lot of that going on too with these NDAs where counterparties have worked together with certain patent provisions in order to be able to orchestrate, the build out of their own infrastructure that's proprietary, and they don't want that being disclosed out. So it's not all as, sexy as people think it is, but a lot of it is. So John, he says, Mr. Shook here. What's up, dude? Did you make it to Mona Lisa's in San Francisco for dinner? We did not. Dinner is on me when I finally get out to an event. Joe helped me fund this week. Awesome, dude. Ready for price appreciation. Thank you so much for everything. Thank you, Mr. Shook. Yeah, I didn't make it out there. We went to a couple of different restaurants in San Francisco, but we had already had dinners booked, every single night. I'm at a point where I kind of look at my calendar for the next day each night, but really I just wake up and run and everything's put in front of me. Again, I have wonderful women in my life that keep me straight and they're organized and they tell me, I won't say they tell me what to do, but a lot of the time they do. When you got to get a lot of stuff done, you want to be using your time productively. And so, we're starting to schedule like a quarter out on stuff now and fill in gaps. And I think that's going to be a lot more productive than what it's been in the past. We got Fly In Hawaiian 801. They say, thanks for all that you do. Just upgraded to Carbon 1. Awesome, dude. Forms you back you back in July 25th and have had 3x since my bag. Thanks. In your most recent Barron's podcast, you talked about drawdown before the pump. Did that already happen? I think so. I think that was the big liquidation event that we were going to see before price moves here. If Tether goes, probably not, but I think we're going to get a big move higher before we see another aggressive pullback. We've got Casey. They say, reached out to DWP 2 times for help with LLC setup. Digital Wealth Partners does not help you with LLCs, Casey. And I'm sorry if they didn't get back to you and let you know that. Closing real estate to get in with you guys need guidance. Yeah. So again, thank you for the super chat and giving me feedback on this. Digital Wealth Partners, they're not ever going to help you with an LLC because they don't do that. They do wealth management. They will, if once they get to your email, and they are backed up right now, so I apologize. They will throw you over the fence to Digital Wealth Partners, or not to Digital Wealth Partners, from Digital Wealth Partners to Digital Family Office. So if you want to get the LLC set up, all you got to do is go to digitalfamilyoffice.io and go to the services tab, and then you'll find the LLC service and use the code 50OFF50 OFFDAG LLC. You'll put in the name. There'll be a bunch of stuff that you kind of fill out. Not a bunch of stuff. It's not that bad. And then once it's filed, you'll have a meeting with an advisor over there to make sure that you're maintaining the corporate veil. And then, happy to make an introduction back across to Digital Wealth Partners. I know it's confusing that we have so many subsidiaries and like different counterparties and stuff to work with. In a family office, you have 6 spokes to a wheel. Okay, so you got a central hub and you have 6 spokes. Digital Family Office right now, it's going to change a little bit, is the wealth planning hub, or the wealth planning arm of the family office. So that's trusts, estate planning, ways to structure your estate, succession planning, life insurance. We have another company now for life insurance. And then Digital Wealth Partners is wealth management. So wealth planning versus wealth management. I know it's kind of confusing. We've got 42 different people across all the corporations that we have at this point. And we'll continue to add companies as well. Because again, we want all 6 of those arms. And then at the family office level, you'll have one concierge person that deals with all the different counterparties so that you don't have to quarterback it. That's the whole benefit of the family office, is you have one contact that helps orchestrate all this stuff for you. And again, that's why people with, $100 million are doing that, because it becomes very confusing. But yeah, if you need the LLC set up, again, just go to Digital Family Office and use the code 50OFF50 OFFDAG LLC. Get you everything for $2,000, and that'll get that running so that when you do have that liquidity event, you want to get set up with Digital Wealth Partners on the wealth management side, not the wealth planning side. You'll be ready to go. Eric with the 589. I love it, dude. Hey, Jake, if 99% of crypto goes away, what use are the exchanges in the future? Also, any way to work with you guys in the future without an LLC? Probably not without an LLC. The assets are going to have to be inside of a trust or an LLC or a corporation or an IRA or some wrapper. That's Anchorage. They're our custodian. They are an enterprise custodian. They don't work with individuals. And it also, actually helps us out a lot, not dealing directly with individuals and only working with corporations also. So we will maintain that in perpetuity. I don't ever see a time where we'll work directly with individuals. But to your point on the exchanges, I agree with that. And that's what I talked about. I put out a video not too long ago where you might not ever be able to buy crypto again or own the bearer asset directly. Thank you, Taco and Jeepo, for the super chat. If exchanges do go illiquid and 99% of cryptos go to zero, to your point, exchanges don't really make a whole lot of sense. They're going to get rolled up. These large financial institutions, Fidelity, Schwab, you saw one today. MasterCard bought Zero Hash in a $2 billion acquisition. It's coming. The consolidation is coming. They didn't need to build it. They will buy it. They already have the money to do it. So we're going to see this space consolidated. There's going to be a ton of exchanges that get rolled up by traditional financial custodians. They'll buy the assets and the people, and they will roll them in. And I think that can happen in the next 12 months, and maybe even more aggressively if Tether unwinds faster than that. So I'm with you. I think it's a good point. We got there's lots of cartoons where people saying that, so I don't know which one it is. And then they have coin at the end. They say, will the government resume before the oil surge happening by the end of November? by sanction deadline, and if ETFs approve immediately upon resume and an oil surge happens a few weeks later, will unwind skyrocket. That's the second part of that is really what I'm thinking happens here. I think that we could get the ETFs tomorrow. Supposedly there was a couple of them that got approved today. We got a couple of them that are supposed to roll into the first week of November. Still haven't seen that BlackRock ETF come out for XRP like I've been anticipating. But I do think that the government should come back up tomorrow. I could be wrong. That's the word on the street. You can't really like super trust the word on the street. Like I hear things, all the people tell me stuff all the time, and I'm like, I don't know some of these people super well, just candidly. People share things with me in confidence, and I appreciate it. But and I'm not ever gonna say who it was or like what exactly they said. Just saying things were said. So we'll see if the government does come back up tomorrow. It'd be late in the day if they do it after markets close. But yeah, I think ETFs could roll and then everything kind of piles on after that, after we already have some momentum. More with the wink. He says, also appreciate the wink last week. If you know, you know. Wink if there was one more drawdown. I don't think there's going to be another drawdown. There could be. Proactively set up an LLC, waiting for bank account confirmation. Thank you for all the insight. You will be forever remembered. Thank you. I appreciate that, my man. Again, like Tether could cause some issues. I don't think you'll be able to do anything when that's going on. We got Southern Rock Singer. This is a second super chat. Thank you for the one earlier. I'm sorry if you did, had to do it again in order to get the question here. He says, Mr. Rock, stay howdy. Says, my first $5 super chat is empty. I'm a new member in Carbon One. Any tips for a beginner on how to navigate the information? Join the town hall on Saturday, 9 a.m. Central Standard Time, and we go over that in the beginning most of the time. We have a lot of new members, and again, almost 9,000, actually a little over 9,000 people in the mastermind at this point, which is just mind-boggling to me. Discord is a little cumbersome, so we go over that at the beginning of the town hall. There's an FAQ channel that you can use the search bar in, and basically anything that you would want to know. Somebody's asked that question, and I guarantee we have an answer for you. That would be the way that I would start if you were just now getting into the mastermind. The general chat, things get lost there. So we have a question and answer channel, and you can put your question there, and our moderators will get to that and answer whatever you need. We want to get people up to speed, but we try to meet you where you are, right? Not everybody's been here for 4 or 5 years. Not everybody's been in the community since the beginning. And again, just want to say super blessed and grateful to have so many people jumping on board, getting excited, being proactive, wanting to be part of a community with the culture that we've built there, and seeing the vision for where everything's headed. So shout out to you for being in Carbon One. Glad to have you in there. If that sounds cool to you, over here on TikTok or over here on YouTube, if you want to be part of the mastermind, we would love to have you. On the other side of a $10 XRP, we are locking it down. It's done. There will be no more members outside of invite only. And we will be very, very particular. We're going to protect the community post-price appreciation. There will be a lot of people with a lot of money in this group. And so we want to make sure that, we're doing everything that we can to mitigate those risks for those people. So if you want to get in now, you're going to be part of it. Prices stay the same for you. They're not escalated. It will be much more expensive after a $10 XRP than it is today to participate in the mastermind. If you want to get in there for $2, try it out. It's month to month. We have 9,000 people that think it's cool and have stayed. Like, there's no contract. Like, if you want to stay and you hang out and you get value from it, awesome. We'd love to have you. If you get in there and you're like, this is a joke, or I don't like Discord, or whatever it is, and you don't like it for whatever reason, it's $2. If you use the code Beyond Broke, all capitalized, the number 1, and then MO gets you the first month for $2 in social or Carbon One. I'm gonna hang out for another 15 minutes or so here, and then we're gonna wrap it up for tonight. And again, I apologize if I don't get to your super chat. If I don't, please come join the mastermind and send me a DM, and I will answer it for you. Mr. Affiliated says, "Hey, legend, what's up, dude? Think Sailor and Diamond once called crypto for criminals. Now they're using it. Does that make them criminals?" Two of the three. I'll let you decide which two. We'll see. We'll see on the other side of, I think there's going to come a moment where things become very transparent for those that are bad actors. Justin Kincaid, Mr. Kincaid, how are you, sir? Do we need the Clarity Act? Trump said we don't need Congress for anything else in a speech after the Genius Act passed. XRP only with clarity and can fill the void. Come on, reverse carry trade and wake up, Uncle Danny. He's over here tonight instead of on TikTok. I don't think so. I think XRP can do everything that we need it to do. There are some other digital assets that I want to have clarity. I want Chainlink to have clarity. I want HBAR to have clarity. I want XDC to have clarity. XLM. Solana seems like it's doing pretty good over there with Western Union and R3 and some of the other stuff that they got going on. I want some of these other digital assets to have clarity, but XRP doesn't need it. It already has it. So that's why it is going to aggregate the majority of the liquidity for everything. It's going to be the everything token. And then there'll be additional benefit when it is interoperable with all these other blockchains. That's why they built Axelar. That's why they built the bridge from the EVM sidechain through Axelar over to the Onyx ecosystem there at JP Morgan. You need interoperability in order for all of that value to eventually flow back through XRP. But if you wanted to set it up as the go-to solution and DEX for that over the long term, it's got to be the first mover. It's got to, kind of like Bitcoin, right? So Bitcoin is first mover. It's kind of like the Alta Vista of crypto. I would look at XRP like the Google or the Amazon of crypto. It's the next gen thing, and it is going to be much larger than Bitcoin ever was once it gets going. So if you're here now, and again, nothing here is financial advice. Do what you want to do. I would just do some research if you're holding a bunch of Bitcoin. No More Noise says, "Hey Jake, love your down-to-earth approach to explaining everything to us minions." You're not minions. So I'm going to take a second here, and before I finish this question, you get what you say about yourself. Okay? If you talk down about yourself, if you badmouth yourself in public or, in your brain, to yourself, that's where you're going to be. And especially on the other side of price appreciation, I really encourage people not to do that. You guys are intelligent, you're sharp, you're here, you are upper echelon, elite, in like high level people. And if you think about yourself as peons or plebes or minions or pawns, you're not. Don't say that about yourself. Okay. My whole life changed when I changed my perspective about myself and my self-talk. So this is a soapbox moment for me because I've seen the dramatic shift in my life that's happened for when I changed that language in my own mind. But I would encourage you to stop that now and start to cultivate those habits to speak positively about yourself, because it will make a difference. I promise you it makes a difference. He says, why is Canary Capital the only one to update their XRP filing to their S1? That's a good question. I talked to them yesterday while I was in San Francisco. Steve wasn't out there, but one of his counterparts was. They've been front of the line on all this stuff. They stay up to date on everything and make sure that everything's moving forward. They were the first people to have the Solana deal up there in Canada ready to roll. And then, ended up getting pushed with everybody else at the same time, which they felt was a little bit unfair. So I think the US is trying to help them. I mean, they've done everything and been first in line for everything. So, them rolling out the Litecoin and HBAR ETFs first for them, and the Solana staking ETF, like, kudos, you guys are on top of it. You actually do get the benefit of going first on something. And so I think that they just want to keep that momentum going, whereas some of the other people are, I think that they're waiting on that standardization from the SEC on what this is going to look like, and whatever they need to change at that point, they would just refile instead of having to do multiple refilings. Armani John says, "Hey Jake, how's it going? I'm blessed and highly favored, my man. Joined Mastermind 2 months ago, but concerned if I'm eligible for the LLC, being a foreigner living in the US based on diplomatic visa from the UN. What's your take? Think I can still work with you guys?" It's a good question. You would need to set up a TIN, and I don't know if you plan to continue to reside here post price appreciation. So both of those things would play into whether you would want to actually structure something here or not. Yeah, if you plan to stay here over the long term, sure. Yeah, happy to work with you. We can get a TIN and set up the LLC, and you'd be good to go. But if you plan to go back, you didn't tell me where you came from. You just said you're on diplomatic visa from the UN. Depending on if it's in Europe or another area in the world, you would probably want to work with some partners there, and we can introduce you to people to be able to structure stuff there and then work with us that way. So just depends on your long-term goals and where you're going to be post price appreciation. I'm going to try to pull this up here, and we'll do lightning round on the super chats. I know I got a buddy who will help me out and send them to me if I miss them here, if they're larger values. So we're going to run through these, and then we're going to cap it for tonight. We got Crypto Kingdom. Thank you so much for the super chat, man. You didn't have to send that much money. He says, "Legend. Wanted to shout out everyone holding XRP since 2017, including my boy Patrick R. Thoughts on the recent FXRP bridge and yield on Flare?" If you were here since 2017, I'm sure you got a fat bag of Flare, my man. Good for you. I had Hugo on the podcast, which I'm very grateful for. Glad he came on and we got to discuss what they were doing over there before they launched the F assets. If you guys want to go watch that on the channel, highly recommend. Very good. Sit down with Hugo. I want institutional adoption of this stuff. I wanted an institutional custody. I want other additional protections and insurance on the smart contracts. So for me, it's still a no. Near future, sure. I mean, like after he gets it implemented at a couple partners that I know about, we'll look at it. We have a lot of clients that hold a lot of Flare and they want to use it. Minting FXRP, I don't know. Like there's a lot of DeFi stuff that makes a lot of sense. It hasn't had the adoption yet. Even at, coin alts, we were talking about this. There's a lot of stuff on chain that makes a lot of sense and reduces frictions and compresses, costs and a lot of things. There's a lot of incumbents that don't want that to happen. Now they will be disintermediated, like that's going to happen, but it's going to take time. And we're probably 6 or 8 months away, if I had to guess, for a reasonable time frame to implement Flare with our clients in a safe, secure, and mitigated risk way to generate returns using their Flare finance and their protocols, or their protocol. So thank you for the super chat, though. We got Crypto Kingdom with a $50 super chat. Thank you so much for that. I don't see a question. We got DFW Mike, my man. He says, "Good evening, Jake. Setting up meetups for Texas people." Jeez, it's too late. I need more tea. Can't read. He's setting meetings up for Texas peeps. One small one in Plano last weekend, looking to set up another in Waco and Temple to be more central. Hard to find places to fit 50 plus people, but keep it quiet for conversations and sharing info. Have an awesome Halloween. Thank you, my man. And thank you for doing that. I'm excited that there are other people, kind of sponsoring events within the mastermind to pull cool people together in certain regions. We've started to see some really cool people do that there in the group up in the Northeast and also here, San Francisco. People are meeting before the meetups and also having additional events. And that's what I want to foster. I want people to meet other people in their neck of the woods and be able to have crypto buddies and go, chop it up and go bowling or do whatever you want to do and hang out with other people that are like-minded, that you're going to be able to do cool stuff with post price appreciation. Not that you can't do cool stuff with them now, but I mean, like, we want to go for a week or 2 weeks or a month and go travel Europe or get on a yacht or take the PJ. Whose private jet are we taking? Like, I don't know. Getting rich alone is lame. You just don't have any buddies to go do cool stuff with. So excited, and thank you again for doing that in the community, and thank you for the super chat, DFW Mike. We got a couple more here, and then we're going to wrap it up. We got Fly Fishing with Jeremy. He says the government opens. ETFs go live. ISO in late November. Clarity passes. Perhaps Brad Garlinghouse added to the Crypto Council. Active supply shock. Interest rates impact US and Japan. You might be right. I would be happy with a $10 XRP. Join the Beyond Broke Mastermind. Thank you for that, my man. Look, I'm right. I'm going to tell you I'm right. I wouldn't come on here and harp about the domino theory and what I've put together for the last 18 months if I wasn't very sure that I'm right. So watch out for it. It's coming. I hope you're in position. Again, I can't give you financial advice. Hopefully, you're able to use your own discernment and go make your own decisions and research things and figure stuff out. But a lot of what I'm talking about is lining up here for the end of 2025. We got SJ12 XRP. Thank you for the super chat. They say, hey, Jake. Jake here. Good to see you, dude. My wife and I just wanted to say thanks for putting on the meetup in San Francisco. Your team is amazing. It was so epic to meet you and shake your hand. Also pumped you like my sweater. Yeah, it was good to see you, my man. Appreciate you coming out to the event. I'm going to grab a couple more here before we wrap it up. We already had Justin Kincaid. Wake up, Uncle Danny. He's always got something crazy going on. Oh my gosh. Mexican pesos. There we go. Thank you for the super chat. They say, hey, Jake, let's say that the $750 prediction goes real. Do you think will be enough money to pay all retail if we all cash out? If not, what's the best strategy? Maybe convert to stablecoin and wait. Yeah, this is the couple things here. There's way more than enough money than you think. Like there's literally quadrillions of dollars in value globally. Okay, there's $1.7 trillion in cash. The U.S. debt is at $38 trillion. That means we've issued that much in bonds. Okay, there's $1.7 trillion in physical currency. I don't know how much there is in digit currency. Okay, it's a lot. There's a lot of US dollars out there. There's way more than enough to buy all the retail XRP, even at significantly higher prices. Money is abundant. It grows on trees. Your parents lied to you. Okay, there's enough for you out there. Promise. And especially once we get the implementation of a lot of this technology, it will flow freely. There won't be intermediaries that are able to disintermediate transactions at scale like they are today, and all the frictions. Like I went and sent wires today, and it took me an hour at the bank to send wires. I shouldn't have to do that, right? That's what I got to do when I got to deal with fiat. When I'm dealing with stable coins and crypto, done, swapped, sent, settled. There's no problems with that. So yeah, there will be, if you want to cash out, my man, and that is your exit strategy, good for you. Make sure you are aware of the tax implications in whatever jurisdiction you're in. It sounds like you're in Mexico, just based on the super chat here. We have other strategies so you can keep the golden goose. Borrow against it tax-free. Use it to produce income to more than cover the interest on the loans. Protect it, scale it, grow it, preserve it for multiple generations. wealthy people don't sell assets. They continue to aggregate assets. Like, that's their game. And they borrow against it. You were told debt was bad. Debt is a tool. Debt can be bad. People don't use it the right way. If you use debt the right way and you understand supply and demand and interest rates and the velocity of money and all of the other foundational pieces that come along with financial education, it's a tool that can be used as leverage to continue to grow your wealth and keep from paying taxes instead of being stuck in this endless loop of just making the minimum payment like many people are on credit cards. So financial education, if you need financial education, we would love to have you in the mastermind. That's what we provide there. But yeah, we have plenty of other strategies that already exist today so that you don't have to cash out and deal with the tax implications. And there's definitely way more than enough money to cover it, even if all of retail decided to sell their XRP. Corey says, hey, Jake, thank you for everything that you do. I have been investing in XRP since April of 2021. Nice. How do I listen to you and Zach Rector live at the same time tonight? How many NDAs are you under? I cannot talk about that. It's interesting that Zach would do a live. He knows I'm on a live tonight. We got Crypto M. He says, El Jefe. Well, actually, I am doing it on Thursday night, so that's probably why it's overlapping with Zach's. I normally do it Wednesday. We normally try to stay away from each other on stuff. So sorry, Zach. I moved my night this week. He says, El Jefe. Glad you're back. Did you see Bearable Guys post on Reddit about an hour ago? If so, what are your thoughts on its significance and timing? Seems very, well, thanks, brother. Well, I've not seen it yet, but we'll go ahead and take over and put on the tinfoil hat here for the last little bit. My tiny little cowboy hat for the tinfoil hat moment here. Since you bring up the riddles, it's always been the icing on the cake for me, but I think things are very timely and things were put out there so that people could understand what was going on and have additional conviction beyond just what they were able to find if they did the research. Interesting day today. So I'll pull it up here. One of my good friends has sent it over to me, so we'll look at it before we hop off tonight. He says, the bear laughs. After so long, the realization is hitting them that the momentum behind Ripple and XRP will not end. The king and his cohorts got the message. Kindly step aside. Maybe it's time here, like I've been talking about all year long, that 2025 is going to be a good ending to the year. So anyway, that's my tinfoil hat moment. Interesting timing after Brad gave his little spiel in Dubai. If you guys watched that about speculation and store of value kind of being the thing of the past, and actually using the infrastructure and the rails that have been developed over the past decades being kind of brought to the forefront as we close things out here in 2025. So that is going to be the last one for tonight. Thank you guys for taking time out of your Thursday to hang out with me. We normally do these Monday and Wednesday nights. We move it around this week because of my travel. We'll do the same next week. But hopefully, you got a lot of value from this. Please like, subscribe, share if you did. If you do want to join the mastermind, we would love to have you there. All you got to do is go to beyondbroke.com and use the code beyondbroke, all capitalized, number 1, and then MO like Mary Oscar. Get you everything there for $2. If you need an LLC to manage your digital assets and make sure that you're prepared before price appreciation, which seems pretty imminent here, I would go ahead and do that. If you got somewhere between $50,000 and $80,000, you can work with an attorney, or you can work with us at digitalfamilyoffice.io and use the code 50OFF, 50OFF DAG That's 50OFF DAG all capitalized. Get you everything for $2,000 for the LLC. And then if you have that set up and you got at least 50,000 XRP, we would love, love, love to work with you at Digital Wealth Partners and get your assets in institutional custody, the same as BlackRock at Anchorage. You get an advisor, you get access to the ability to borrow against your assets, generate returns on them, and all the other fun stuff that we have over there for people. And that's at digitalwealthpartners.net. That's .net at the end. And just use the contact us form there. So with that, we're going to wrap it up. Hope you guys have a wonderful evening, a wonderful week, and we will see you guys on the next one.